shit hot. Oh, I'ma light the shit up. Yeah, I'ma make the shit hot. Oh, I'ma light the shit up.
Hey guys, and welcome to part 1 of a new Whatif. This is What if Itachi kidnapped and adopted Naruto. Basically, what if Itachi raised Naruto. Like go for the next part, we're going to start at 50, why not? And let's jump into it. Naruto, when he is born, if some of you watch Jujutsu no Kanon, whatever, the Gojo guy who has really blue eyes, the one who apparently has 6 eyes and all that, I haven't caught up on his latest episode, I'm not going to lie, but what I can say is, Naruto has the same eyes as him. He doesn't have 6 eyes, his eyes are just that blue. And it's a special dojutsu we'll explain later on. But anyway, Naruto's father and mother is Kushina and Minato, like usual. But on the night of the Nine-Tails attack, it was actually the Ten-Tails attack. As Obito managed to steal all the Tail Beasts and create the Ten-Tails. So it took the 4th Hokage Minato and the 3rd Hokage to steal the Ten-Tails inside Naruto, meaning they both died. So all that was left was Danzo, and his plan was either to have Naruto serve under him, or to have him executed, as he was a danger to the village. And sorry about that static noise, that's my fault, sorry. But Itachi and Shisui heard about this and knew what they had to do. Instead of massacring the Uchiha, they kidnapped Naruto and left the village, only way of saving him. They trained Naruto every single day so he'd become stronger and stronger. Until one day, while Naruto was training, his blue eyes, he was doing hand-to-hand combat, and Shisui sped it up, and Naruto's eyes turned red, a 3-to-1 Sharingan, and he ended up actually smacking Shisui, sending him flying. Due to Naruto being the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki, he has superb control. Not superb control, I mean superb strength and all that, but he can't control the Ten-Tails yet. He hasn't even been able to speak to him. When this happens, Itachi and Shisui run over and look at his eyes. They're wondering what his eyes are. But then Naruto's eyes change again into a Mangekyou pattern. You guys can choose what the pattern is. And they're all shocked, and they're wondering what's happened. And then Naruto starts screaming as his eyes pattern change again. But this time it's painful, but it turns into an eternal Mangekyou. Shisui and Itachi realise that Naruto just went from like a little kid level to being Hokage level with a matter of seconds due to his eyes. But they all want to know what his abilities are, but before it happens, Naruto's eyes fade back to normal, and then they're shocked. Once this happens, a weird thought jumps into their head, as seeing it was pushed in. They all suddenly know what Naruto's eyes are. It's an original Jojutsu, the original pure eye, not Boruto's Jogan, like the actual first ever Dojutsu. The first ever human being alive with chakra, ever. It could be the first Otsuki member, and no one knows who he is, no one remembers it, no one even knows about this Dojutsu, except for some reason Naruto has it. And there's plenty of abilities that can form of it, which the main ones is every Dojutsu that ever exists, Naruto can activate them and have all their abilities. But due to this, they start training more and more, and Naruto gets a grasp on his power. And one day they decide it's time for Naruto to try to contact the Ten-Tails. And that's what they do. Naruto sits there and concentrates, slowly trying to force into his mind, but it's like the Ten-Tails is blocking him out, which makes Naruto snap a bit. His eyes glow blue, like you can see a visible light coming from them, and the ground beneath him cracks. And suddenly he's able to force into his own mindscape, and he can see the chakra path. Due to having the Ten-Tails and all that, he can move there in light speeds. But when he gets there, the Ten-Tails just sits there growling at him. And Naruto still enraged, just snaps at him.
If you're gonna growl at me like a dog, I might as well put you on a leash and treat you like one.
The Ten-Tails seeing Naruto's eyes get stared. He doesn't know what it is, he just knows it's powerful. And he stops growling and actually speaks.
So you're my host, a pitiful little boy. What a shame, I thought you might be a bit stronger due to your eyes.
Naruto's eyes glare for a few seconds. And he's like, you want to see strong? Naruto somehow uses a force that no one knows of, and the 10 toes gets lifted into the air by Naruto's pure will, a weird energy, and it can feel its own bones starting to slowly fracture. It starts screaming out in pain. Naruto's getting angry as he grips his hands down. He's going to crush the 10 toes, killing it. But then he snaps back into reality and jumps back and apologizes. The 10 toes shocked. But he's somewhat taken a liking to the boy just by the pure strength and bloodlust. It reminds him of himself in a way. And the 10 toes says to him,
I don't know why, but I've taken some sort of a liking to you. You remind me of myself, or at least me before I had some sort of control. Bloodlust, insane power, little control.
Naruto looks a bit ashamed, and the 10 toes for some reason feels guilt. He feels a strong bond to Naruto that he has no reason to feel. He's never felt it for anyone at all. It's almost like a parently vibe. And Naruto can sense his emotions, and he trusts it enough, and he burns away the seal. Naruto has no clue how he does it, he just has a feeling and he follows it. The gates open and the 10 toes thinks about rushing, but he actually wants to stay with Naruto for some reason. And he makes Naruto a deal. He says to Naruto,
I will not be a little power source or a slave. I will not be some chakra fruit. Me and you will be friends.
Naruto smiles and says, my first real friends are the Shisui and Itachi. The 10 toes can see everything Naruto sees, and he knows how hard his life has been, and that's partly his fault. And they end up fist bumping. Naruto comes back to reality as chakra explodes from him. The little scaly form that Obito had goes away. Basically, it's a perfect form. It's a perfect form. Unlike Minato, and unlike Madara's and Obito's. I'm saying they're imperfect. That's the 10 toes and them truly bonded. But they have an actual bond, meaning Kaguya cannot get out using the 10 toes now. And Black Zetsu, who's watching this, is just enraged. How did he tame the 10 toes is all he can think. And when Naruto comes out of this little fantasy world, he can know he has different powers. The orbs that he has in his back that he can never control before, he can now use them. And he molds them into weapons. And he can hear the 10 toes voice in the back of his head.
Sword of Nimaboko.
The same sword Obito used, and it molds into that sword. Itachi and Shisui are just shocked. And Naruto knows the stronger the person's will is, the stronger the sword becomes. And with this, they start their training. Naruto and the 10 toes work on merging their chakra together, making Naruto insanely strong. And he also learns more about his own powers. He can lock someone in a mental space where everything that happens to them actually happens to their real body. He calls it Void. And it's unbeatable as soon as it activates. He can also figure out how he can use his own pure energy to control people's body. And if he really wanted to, he could snap someone's neck with just a thought. But he slowly learns his other dojutsus. First was the Byakugan, then it was the Rinnegan, and then it was the Tenseigan. And with all of these, he gets another power boost. And the 10 toes is just laughing on the inside and says, I guess it's time for my one. Naruto can feel slight pain in his head, and it's like, oh, what is this? And he can hear the 10 toes in his head.
Calm down, Naruto. Let it happen. It's the Rennie Sharingan.
They're all rushed over to Naruto, Shisui and Itachi. Them themselves have become roughly 10 times stronger just due to training with Naruto. And they look at Naruto's forehead as the red eye opens up on it. They all know the legend of the Rennie Sharingan, but never knew it was real. And they now know that Naruto is basically a real god. With this, Naruto can put the world in a genjutsu if he wanted to, and he has control over the sacred divine tree. No one knows the location, they just know that with it, you basically have infinite chakra. And Naruto's sitting there looking at his hands. And he thinks, with this power, I don't want to hurt people or get them to do what I want. I want to help them. And it's time Itachi and Shisui think to tell Naruto about his actual parents. At first when Naruto found out, he was annoyed. But then he hears the rest of the story about how it was either that or Naruto would be used as a tool or be executed. And he thanks them. And he also apologized to Itachi and Shisui, as they had to leave their family. But Shisui and Itachi don't honestly mind, as they kept checks on the village. Them leaving meant that the Uchiha and the village stayed in peace without the Uchiha needed to be massacred. And now the village is stable, and they decide it's their time to return. So they're heading back to the village, but on their way back, a person wearing a dark robe with red clouds on, attacks them. It's a man who has a Rinnegan. And there's also a masked man with them. And Itachi and Shisui are suspicious, and they say, "Who are you, blah blah, what do you want?" And Pain, or as we know as Pain, tells him to hand over the Tento Shinjuriki or they'll die. And they all just laugh. And Obito gets annoyed at this and rushes in, thinking where he can phase his body with Kamui that he won't be hurt. That was wrong. Naruto can still break his body. And he holds his finger up and snaps both Obito's arms, meaning he had to drop his chains. Obito falls to the ground in pain, screaming. But due to the Hashirama cells he has, he does end up healing. He's like, what are you? But before he can finish that sentence, he sees a purple glow from Naruto's eyes. And they get blown back by an almighty push. Pain uses his, but Naruto's easily overpowers his. And then Naruto sends 2 of his orbs. He destroys half of Obito's, not destroys it, but ends up stabbing the fake part of Obito's body, meaning that the huge chakra supply that Obito had from the Hashirama cells is now faded, meaning he can barely have one Rinnegan and a Kamui in it, but it's draining his chakra insanely. Pain, on the other hand, flies back at Naruto, and Naruto just senses that this isn't real. It's one of a path, and Naruto can create a path. And he decides to test out his power. He activates his Eternal Magenko Sharingan, and it slices down. Suddenly, you guys decide what color Susanoo he has. The Susanoo ribcage surrounds him, and an arm comes out of it and smacks the Pain into the ground, and grabs the Pain's leg and rips it off. Naruto, due to being the Tento Shinjuriki, has a natural bloodlust and doesn't have a lot of remorse. Naruto just starts beating him around as his Susanoo evolves further and further, until he breaks into a perfect Susanoo. He soon discovers he can use any weapon and summons a katana, and slices down, sending you know how Madara does it, he sends like a slice, and it's like a flying sword slice, and it slices that Pain in half. And Naruto deactivates it and comes down. This is when Obito charges at Naruto. Naruto doesn't know what his Eternal Sharingan is, like its ability, and he soon figures it out. Time just freezes, and Naruto can still move. He's walking around and says, one of my abilities is time freeze, And where time's frozen, Obito's technically in the actual world, meaning that his Kamui has no effect, and Naruto just backhands him, knocking him out. And then time goes back to reality. To Shisui and Itachi, this happened in a split second and they're confused, and Naruto explains his abilities. Anyway, they head back to the village. They're walking back, and when they get there, they get stopped by guards. And they all recognise who they are, especially the Tento's complexion, and they welcome them back. As in this one, Danzo was revealed to be a traitor, and they all know why Itachi and that kidnapped Naruto. And when they get back, everyone just gives Naruto weird stares, but it's not they hate him, they admire him a bit as they know what power he holds. And Sasuke and the Uchiha all find out Itachi and Shisui are back, and they all return there. The only person who looks at Naruto with hate in his eyes is Sasuke, as all he knows is that Itachi left him for him. And while they're working him back, Sasuke snaps and charges at Naruto. Of course, Naruto's merciless, and he flicks his fingers, and Naruto gets hit. And Sasuke gets hit by an invisible force, sending him flying into a wall. Naruto uses his finger, raises him up in the air, and starts choking Sasuke in the air. Bugaki tells him to stop, and Naruto says it's self-defense. And Itachi's looking at Sasuke. He hasn't actually recognized him, believe it or not. He suddenly realizes, and he tells Naruto to stop, and explains that's his little brother. Naruto's eyes go from just normal to actually shocked, and he drops him and catches him in the air. And he ends up healing all Sasuke's injuries. Sasuke wakes up, and he's like, "You demon!" And this word gets Naruto, and it riles up the Ten Tails. Naruto's voice changes.
Demon, huh? So after everything, I still get called a demon. I could be the one to save this village from the tragic future it has. And yet, you call me a demon. I should destroy this village.
And everyone gets shivers, but Naruto calms down a bit. And they get taken to the Hokage's office. The Hokage right now is actually Jiraiya, as he had no reason to travel the world, as he already had a feeling that Naruto would be that special student that he needed to teach. So he actually ended up becoming the Hokage. And he gets introduced, and Jiraiya's actually nice to Naruto, as he knows it's Minato's son, and he explains to him how he's his godfather. Naruto smiles, and he actually has another new member of a family that he never knew he had. The only family he ever knew he had was the Ten Tails, as he considers it family, Itachi and Shisui, and now he actually has a godfather. He considers Itachi and Shisui brothers, by the way. But he also looks at them like he looks at Itachi and Shisui as his like parent figures. He looks at Shisui as his brother and Itachi as his parents, as his dad. And Itachi looks at Naruto the same way as his son. This is where Anbu appear, with swords near Naruto's neck, as they don't know that Naruto has the Ten Tails tamed. Jiraiya goes to stop them, but one of the Anbu gets lit up in black flames and falls on the floor, crying in pain, and ends up dying. There's blood coming from Itachi's eyes. If you're wondering, both Itachi and Shisui have an eternal Magenku, as they just swap their eyes. And Itachi just waits for the ninja Anbu to die. And he says, anyone who tries to go after Naruto will die. Anyone who treats him like a monster will die. And anyone who wants to try use him as a weapon, a village, a person, I will kill them. And a red ribcage, a very faint one, appears around him, but he managed to fade it away. Jiraiya suddenly realises the new strength that Itachi and Shisui has, and how they're both Hokage level and could easily destroy the village. But he also recognises these two as allies and an insane boost to the Leaf Village. So he understands and says, Itachi, you do understand that I'm Naruto's godfather. I'm basically the closest thing he has to a father. When that happens, it wasn't Itachi but Naruto who had a truth-seeking orb shaped into a sword just floating right at Jiraiya's throat, and says, you're not the closest thing I have to a father. I have a father. His name's Itachi. And Jiraiya suddenly realises what their relationship actually is and apologises. And says, well, I'm your godfather, Naruto, meaning if anything happens to Itachi, I will protect you with my life, so don't worry. And Itachi, I will not let anything happen to Naruto. Shisui's there in the background, getting his coat, wondering if he needs to use his coat to Mui or whatever. Like, getting it ready just in case he needs it. But it turns out he doesn't, but he still has it ready, his eyes active, and Jiraiya sees this and knows that he doesn't plan to make a move against Naruto, but he knows if anyone did, it'd be impossible, as he knows about Shisui's insanely powerful genjutsu that makes the genjutsu a reality. And so he knows that Naruto's safe, and just tells them that they want to train Naruto and get him and make him a ninja. Naruto is straight away given the rank of Jonin due to the fact he's a 10-toes Jinchuriki, has perfect control over it, has every dojutsu, been trained by two of the strongest ninjas ever known. So he's straight away given a Jonin. He's added to Sasuke and Sakura's squads. They had Sai in their team, but he ends up getting removed and moved to Ino's team. And that's fine, because none of them really like Sai. He wasn't like the original canon, he was just broken. As he looked at Danzo as a father, Danzo was basically executed and he didn't know why. As it was really hidden, as they didn't want anyone to know that the main person inside the Leaf Village was a traitor. But with this, Naruto also gets given access to anything he wants, and he starts learning new jutsu. He can learn them straight away just by looking at them, and he picks up their Rasengan, Chidori, Flying Raijin technique, Shadow Clones. He already knows the Shadow Clone due to Itachi, but this one gives it more step. So instead of having to do multiple hand sign, he can just do his normal 2, like his normal 1 hand sign now. And he does this, and Naruto basically has infinite chakra. He has every chakra nature and everything. So he just starts learning jutsu after jutsu, and after a week returns and has a huge advance of knowledge. But while Naruto is returning home to return the scroll to Jiraiya, he's learned every scroll, every jutsu in that scroll. Orochimaru attacks. And that will be for next episode, guys. Hope you did enjoy. I know this is a different pace for videos than I normally do. I'm trying a new style. Tell me if you prefer this style or the old style. But I hope you enjoy. If you did, please like, subscribe, and peace out, guys. Bye.